All right, welcome into another Unbearable Podcast. Coming hot off the presses as Andy Dalton is now going to be in Chicago. This tweet came out about an hour ago, and Drew and I decided to hop on and kind of give live reaction. Drew, I'm going to let you go ahead and go first.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously, I don't care what anybody says. You could say whatever you want. It's disappointing, okay? No one, I don't think there was one single Bears fan out there who's like, you know who would be a solid pickup for this team? Andy Dalton. And, I would get it if we didn't have, a backup. It would make more sense. But Nick Foles is still on the roster. And I don't see why you would have Nick Foles and Andy Dalton on any team. Like, those two guys together, I just don't know why you would have both of them. It's just, I don't understand why they did it. If you still have Nick Foles. If you didn't have Nick Foles, I can maybe see it as like an insurance. But considering we still have Foles, I don't understand why they would make that
move. Is that all you got? Because I'm about to go on for a while.
You could go ahead and go on, and then I'll just jump in if I have something comes in.
So we'll come back to the Andy Dalton and the Nick Foles because I do have thoughts on that. But I first just want to give my thoughts on Andy Dalton, and then we'll bring up the tweet you sent me also. So my thoughts on Andy Dalton is it makes sense. So yesterday we saw Ryan Fitzpatrick sign. We saw Andy Dalton sign with the Bears. Immediately following Andy Dalton came Tyrod Taylor and a little bit after Jacoby Brissett. Of those four guys, the one that makes the most sense is Andy Dalton because our offensive coordinator, Bill Lazor, was his offensive coordinator in Cincinnati. So there's some familiarity there. I don't think this stops the Bears from doing anything else. $10 million for a guy that might be a quarterback or even a backup anymore. It is what it is. We'll have to see what the exact language of the contract is. Maybe it's only, a couple million guaranteed and we can end up cutting him. But I have a really hard time thinking that this is what Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy are going to hang their hat on and say, okay, we did a good job addressing the quarterback situation. Andy Dalton is just here.
Okay, what has Pace and Nagy done recently to give you the faith in them to think, oh, this isn't all they're going to do? They have something up their sleeve. Well, this is what they are. This is what they do.
And this is exactly it. Adam Schefter just came out with a tweet. You sent it to me. I saw it. That the Chicago Bears were very aggressive in getting Russell Wilson, and they just said no. I mean, what do you want the Bears to do? They tried to get Russell Wilson.
We were talking yesterday, and this is off air, so that people won't know this, but you were saying, Russ is coming, they're going to make him a deal they can't refuse. But that's what I was trying to say. We could be as aggressive as we want, but if Seattle's not going to trade him, it doesn't matter if we're willing to offer them our entire team. If they're not going to trade him, they're not going to trade him. But right. I will say this on a positive note, because I know this has been kind of negative, at least on my part so far. I think the Texans picking up Tyrod Taylor pretty much signals that the writing is all but on the wall. I don't think you go out and pick up a Tyrod Taylor unless you plan on moving off of Deshaun Watson. So if we did try to get Russell Wilson, like their report said, and it just wasn't going to happen, okay, that's it. Until Seattle calls us back and says, is that deal still on the table? Now we're talking trades. We have to shift our focus now and go get plan B, which is Deshaun Watson in my eyes, in my opinion.
I think Deshaun Watson really should have been plan A, but I said this on the last podcast. If I didn't say this, I'm 90% sure I did. I think this is going to be a long game, okay? I don't think Russell Wilson was getting traded in March. I don't even think he's going to get traded until the summer. Same with Deshaun. I think both of them have to not show up to training camp and prove that they're really not showing up to the team to get the team to trade them. I said this last time. So what do you want them to do? Did you want them to run it back with Trubisky? I know a lot of people on Twitter are now like, well, I'd rather have had Trubisky. Okay, going back to Trubisky is like getting back with an axe saying it's going to be better this time. It's not going to get better. It doesn't work. The writing has been on the wall. Let him move on. Andy Dalton, he knows Bill Lazor. So, I mean, I really think that the Bears are going to actually draft someone now.
I think they should, especially if they don't make a trade for Wilson or Watson, then you have to draft someone. I don't think you really have an option. But it's just, it's not that it's Andy Dalton, because I have nothing against Andy Dalton. He seems like a decent enough human being. It's the thing that Andy Dalton symbolizes. And one of our good friends, friend of the show, we've had him on, Jack Thiel, shout out to him, put out a tweet as well. I don't know if you saw it. And he said the Bears are becoming the Knicks with rumors of Watson and Russell Wilson and then settling for fucking Andy Dalton.
The Bears didn't settle. The Bears didn't settle. That's the thing. They did everything they can to get Wilson, and they might not be done getting Wilson or Watson. Who says that they're done? No one says, oh, if you don't trade for a guy by March 17th, then you're not getting him. I still think this is going to play out. So sorry, Jack. I think your tweet's just shit. That's what I say. Why do you have to be like, who in the right mind? And I tweeted this today before we even signed Andy Dalton, said, who thinks that the Bears are just going to be okay with Andy Dalton as quarterback? It's not going to happen.
I would agree. A normal, logical people would say, yeah, that makes sense. But Ryan Pace has not shown that he's competent at his job recently. I'm not going to say that as overall. That might be a little bit unfair. When it comes to the quarterback position, he has not been good.
Okay. Okay, fine. Yeah, fine. Quarterback position, but you can't say he's been bad at his job. I'm one of the people that I believe in Ryan Pace. Just Jalen Johnson, Cole Kmet, Darnell Mooney is a great draft class. He's always has such good draft class, except for the first round. But this isn't about Ryan Pace because I will defend Ryan Pace all day long. So, and then even today, I even tweeted out Ryan Pace's worst free agent signings and then his best, and I had way more best than his worst. So I blindly trust the Bears. I'm an optimist. You may be more of a pessimist, but that's the fact of the matter. As far as I know, you're concerned about having Andy Dalton and Nick Foles on the same team. I think Foles could be traded. We'll have to see
Foles, though, do you think?
Yeah, I think he could be traded. I don't know why you would make this move if you already have Foles. Although we saw it last year, did not work with Foles.
No.
It's either he's going to be cut, traded, whatever. I feel better with Andy Dalton than Nick Foles. I think you would say the same.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's why, yeah, I would be fine. I would rather have anyone than Nick Foles. That was some of the worst I think I've ever seen.
So we'll have to see what happens with Nick Foles, but they had to do something, right?
And I think the thing that scares me though too about this deal is and obviously like we don't know for sure yet, but from what I have read, it was a $10 million salary with $3 million maybe in incentives. Mm-hmm. Now, we don't know what those incentives are. It could just be staying on the roster. But the fact that there's incentives with the money in this deal makes me think that they don't necessarily not plan on playing him, if that makes sense. Because there has to be incentives for him to reach. And that's what maybe scares me a little bit.
I'm pretty sure. I mean, it's just if you end up starting so many games for us, here's that money.
Yeah.
Actually, there's a tweet out right now that the Broncos are looking for Nick Foles. So I do think there's a market. Who says this would be hilarious? But if he goes to the Colts too, and then he backs up Carson Wentz again. He's with his Eagles coach. I think Foles could. Why would they make this trade if they're going to have both Foles and Dalton? I agree with you. I really think that Foles is going to be traded. So
yeah, that seems like a next logical thing. Unless they just outright cut him, whichever helps us better with the cap. I'm not really sure, or if it even makes a difference. Because I know he was still owed a decent bit of money.
Well, that's the thing too. Everyone's like, we're paying this much for Foles. No, his deal was a 3-year, $21 million deal.
Yeah.
The Jaguars ate a lot of his cap, so we'll have to see. His cap hit should be $7. I'm not exactly sure, but I know that was his deal.
I don't know. I would like to talk about what Andy Dalton brings to the team, but we don't really know if he's going to be in a start, what his role is going to be yet. So it's kind of hard to do that, I mean, we saw he came in and played. I mean, once he started getting a couple of starts for Dallas, when he came back from injury, he wasn't playing too bad last year for the Cowboys. But I think, I don't know. I just don't see how you can go into this year with pretty much everything on the line, at least in Nagy and Pace's perspective. That's how they got to be looking at it. And I agree with what you're saying. I don't think they can go into the year with just Andy Dalton as their only plan. If they do, they're pretty much setting themselves up to be out of a job.
No, and they're not going to do that. Dalton, he started 10 games. He threw for just over 2,000 yards, 14 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, passer rating of 87, and completion percentage of 65%. I mean, it's not great, but I'm sure Foles he didn't play 10 games, but if he did, his numbers wouldn't look as good as
Cowboys also had very bad offensive line play last week too. That should be noted.
Yeah. I wanted to tell every Bears fan to stop overreacting. Everyone's like, oh, this is it. The Bears, this is the move the Bears made. Okay, the Bears tried everything they could do. I don't believe this is going to be the only move that they make. If they do, if this is the only move that they make, well then, like, I'm done as a Bears fan for real. But this can't be. They're either going to draft a guy, they're going to trade for Wilson or Watson. Still, I told you guys this is going to be the long game last week. So I do think Dalton is an upgrade over Foles. Is he an upgrade over Trubisky? Maybe not, but you can't run it back with Trubisky. So, and the reason Dalton makes sense is because of his relationship with Bill Lazor. He's tied. There's 3 other quarterbacks that have moved in the past 2 days: Fitzpatrick, Brissett, Tyrod Taylor. Dalton does make the most sense for the Bears in that sense. So stop coming at the Bears like we're a terrible franchise. People are already tweeting videos or just tweeting tweets. I'm no longer a Bears fan. This franchise. What do you want them to do? What do you want them to do? I feel like this was a move they had to make, and this is a move that doesn't stop them from making any other moves. So, any final thoughts on Foles?
I guess I could agree with that. I guess maybe it's too early to judge, because if it's simply for a backup quarterback, then okay. But that being said, you're on the clock now, because now you made a move. So now people kind of see your hand. So I don't know. I'm not going to say it's completely horrible, because at the end of the day, if he's a backup, it doesn't really matter. But
what if he's a bridge quarterback for a rookie too? I think he'd be a great bridge quarterback.
Then we have to trade up.
Then we have to what?
We have to trade up.
I don't know if we have to trade up.
Well, I'm not going to sit here and have Andy Dalton for a bridge for someone like Mac Jones, who's not even that highly regarded. If you pick Mac Jones at 20, you throw him in there right away.
Mac, what are you saying? Mac
Jones? It's not like you're investing high. I mean, yeah, it's still a first-round pick, but it's not like it's a top 5 quarterback pick. If you pick someone at 20, you see what they have, and if they don't have it, they don't have it. In my opinion.
You got to take a swing. And I think Mac Jones is kind of highly regarded.
But, I mean, he's regarded as, what, like the 4th best quarterback in this draft? 5th best?
I'd say he's the 4th, yeah. It's between him and Trey Lance for that 4th spot. I would even maybe put Mac Jones on that 4th spot just because he's played last season and played tougher competition. So,
speaking of Trey Lance.
Okay.
To bring him up, I was talking to some people the other day who are also NFL fans, and I think I came to the conclusion, if we stay at 20 and Trey Lance is there, I want him.
I think there's a very real possibility that he is there. So
I think you need high upside. I think he has a lot of, like, yeah, his floor may be low, but I think if he reaches his potential, he could be really good.
We'll have to do a draft episode coming up. But the thing about Trey Lance, which is interesting, is he never threw a pick in his college career until his last game. They did the showcase. He played 1 game this season for him. And I don't know. I didn't hear great things about his pro day either. I think if you had a full season of tape, it might be a different story. But he was so good last year, and then he didn't get a season this year. And what he's showing this year is not bad. What did you hear about him? What made you want him at 20?
Well, I was talking to some people last year, and they were like, "Do you know about
last year?"
Yeah, well, the last time he was playing.
Yeah.
And they were like, "You got to look up." Like, I didn't know much about him. I'm not gonna act like I knew about him and everything. And then I looked up like some of his highlights, and like you said, he had never thrown a pick. And I know he plays North Dakota State, like shout out Missouri Valley Conference, like they win it every year, which I know is not very good competition, but. I really got really excited because the first game of the season, before their season got canceled, they were actually supposed to play Oregon. So I kind of like, I was supposed to be on like kickoff weekends. Like, okay, like maybe we could see what this guy could really do against a real team. Yeah. And obviously that never ended up happening. But the reason I'm pretty high on him is because a lot of people were down on him after his showcase game. And I don't think that's fair to like take 1 game after he just had this full season and say, okay, well, he's not good anymore. That's not really fair. So I think all you could look at is what he's done. And I mean, that 1 season where he did play, he was unbelievable.
All right, this is turning into a draft episode, but to counter him, I guess you could be on the Trey Lance train. I'll be on the Mac Jones train.
Also, one last thing. Yeah, you said I do have closing thoughts. They said they might trade Anthony Miller, which I don't have really much to say about that. Besides, like, you could just leave. Like, I don't care. You can get out. never lived up to your potential, in my opinion. So, and now you're just like a crybaby too. Like he's always liking tweets from like, "Oh, you should come here, bro. Come here, come here." So, yeah.
You know who's also kind of a crybaby? Who's our best player in offense is Allen Robinson.
I would have been fine letting him walk too.
Well, I almost was like, should the Bears have let him walk? Because right now they're paying him $18 million, which I think is a very good deal for the Bears for Robinson. Robinson probably deserves to make 20, but 18 is a pay increase from last year. And Juju still hasn't signed. Who else hasn't signed? Kenny Galladay still hasn't signed. Like, right. And the wide receivers were saying there's not really much of a market. I almost wish Allen Robinson got to walk because that's what he wanted to do. I almost wish he got to walk, saw that he wasn't going to get paid, and then just came back to the Bears and we had an extension. I don't know, but it's like he is a crybaby. He keeps every time somebody gets franchise tag, he like tweets about it. Like, dude, you're getting paid $18 million. That's an increase from your last year's contract, and I don't know. He annoys me. He's such a good player. So I love him as a player.
He deserves $18 million. He definitely doesn't. I don't think a single receiver right now is making 20 a year. He damn sure don't deserve it.
I don't know. I wish he hit the free market, saw that there wasn't a market, and then came back to the Bears on a 3 or 4 year deal. But maybe he could just hear it from the other guys. What else happened? We already talked about Bobby Massey leaving, right? Buster Screen. Re-signed Mario Edwards. That's the other news. But and Cairo Santos. So
which is good.
Yep.
That was a good move.
All right. Everyone just calm down about Andy Dalton. Nobody's saying he's a starter.
Let me ask you this.
Okay.
Out of everyone left, if the Bears could pick up one guy, who would you want them to pick up? Realistically.
In free agency?
Yeah. That'd be actually like a shot, like not like Galladay or like actual like realistic.
Yeah, I like that they're interested in Trent Williams. I hope that they go after Trent Williams. They really need a tackle spot. If they sign a tackle, then there won't be a problem in the draft. So, and don't forget, Russell Wilson wants to come to the Bears. It's Seattle that's saying no, and Russell has the no trade clause, so he basically gets to choose where he wants to go. And what it's going to take is for Russell to force Seahawks' hand. He wants to come to the Bears. The Saints aren't going to trade for him now after re-signing Jameis, and they got Taysom. The Raiders just cut all their offensive linemen, and we already talked about how Dak got re-signed. So the only team on his list left that's realistic is Chicago. So Andy Dalton, you're a placeholder. Who knows? Maybe we end up trading Dalton and Foles or one of them to Seattle.
But that's assuming he doesn't modify his list, right? Because like, what if it comes down to where he's like, okay, I do demand a trade, and then everyone knows that we're the only team on his list, so we try to lowball Seattle, and Seattle tells them, okay, they're lowballing us. Is there anywhere else you'd like to go? So we could actually get you out of here.
The Bears aren't going to lowball him, and Russell Wilson's already demanded a trade. So this is the fact of the matter is he's demanded a trade. The Bears have made an offer. Now we just got to
demand a trade. He just said he hasn't said I don't want to play for the Seahawks anymore.
Why would his team 3, put out these are my top 3 destinations or top 4 destinations? Is that not a trade demand for you?
I think what Deshaun Watson did is demand a trade. He publicly let people in the organization know he is not playing for them anymore. That to me is demanding a trade. Russell hasn't done that.
What have the Seahawks done to help Russell Wilson this free agency?
Well, nothing. I'm not saying he won't do it, but I'm saying as of right now, I think what he is doing and what Deshaun is doing is 2 different things.
I'm just saying the situation needs to escalate. Actually, last week, Vegas removed the Russell Wilson prop bet where he would go, and they upped the Bears Super Bowl odds for one night. So, I mean, there's been serious movement. And Adam Schefter even said the Bears were very aggressive. The Seahawks just said no. So at least the Bears are trying. That's my thing. Why are we getting down on this team when they can't do anything else? They have to sign a guy because they can't run it back with Foles. And there's nothing. But it was interesting once Dalton signed, that's when the QB market, the guys similar to Dalton all signed also. So there was serious movement going on. Let me just check Twitter real quick, make sure nothing else really happened. It doesn't seem like it. All right, guys, just calm down. Andy Dalton's on the team. Doesn't mean he's the starter. If it's week 1 and he is named the starter, then we can panic. But there's still a long way away from week 1. We have the draft, and we still have a long time away for trades to still happen. So All right, we'll see you guys later. Maybe the Bears make more moves. We'll be back.